Recommendation is to approve as proposed with implementing trailer bill language to be refined as necessary. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Allen? Or Senator Morlock?
No.
Senator Allen, apologies.
Show that passing 2-1. And close the roll and move on now to item number 6. K-12 College Readiness Block Grant. We'll begin with the LAO.
This is also a new proposal. Staff is recommending providing $200 million in one-time Prop 98 funding that would be available for 3 years to provide block grants to school districts and charter schools to prepare high school students, specifically low-income English learners and foster youth, to have them be eligible for admission into post-secondary institutions and to increase the 4-year college-going rate of those students. The implementing language would specify that the grant funds would be provided to school districts and charter schools based on the number of low-income English learners and foster youth, and the specific per pupil amounts would be determined by the superintendent, with a minimum grant that would be available for small school districts and charter schools. The funds would be used or could be used for professional development related to college readiness, for college admission counseling services, for instructional materials that support college readiness. Support of student completion of A through G requirements, including additional A through G course offerings, collaborative partnerships with post-secondary institutions, and covering the cost of advanced placement fees.
Thank you. Finance.
Afternoon, Brianna Brents, Department of Finance. The department is not supporting this initiative this time.
Okay, is there anything like a rationale or?
Christian Osmani with Finance. It's new spending not included in the governor's budget, and so it's not consistent with the governor's plan.
Okay, let's hear from the department.
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We don't currently have a position on this, but conceptually we believe that this could be a positive effort to increase the number of students who are prepared to enter college.
Any questions or comments from colleagues? Let's hear from public.
Chair and members, Enrique Ruacho representing the Los Angeles Unified School District here in support of the item. We've had a support on the legislative proposal SB 1050, and we see this as a way to continue to be committed to ensuring students graduate from high school and complete the requirements that they need to move on to college. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Andrew Medina of Asian Americans Advancing Justice California, which is part of the College for All Coalition, also in support of the item, in support of SB 1050. It's a great opportunity for us to provide access for low-income English language learners and foster care students for higher education.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Jeff Baca, representing the Riverside County Superintendent of Schools and the school districts in Riverside County. Utilizing grant funding in Riverside County, we've adopted the Riverside County Education Collaborative, which offers many of the same services that would be provided in the item that's before you today. So we've been pleased to support both Senator De Leon's legislation and the proposal that's before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Erin Evans on behalf of the Santa Clara County Office of Education, as well as the California Association of School Counselors. Both of these organizations support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Martha Alvarez on behalf of AXA. I would note first for the record that we are in support of the proposal, and for the record, AXA, we've been supporting of the one-time discretionary dollars going out to school districts in a discretionary fashion. However, we do believe that this proposal is worthy of consideration given the focus about college readiness. The legislature in the past has supported CTE incentive grants. This is one step in the right direction in ensuring that we're also keeping in mind the college readiness aspect. So we support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, any other comments or questions from members of the committee? With that, I'll ask staff to please read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is to approve as proposed with implementing trailer bill language to be refined as necessary. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
No.
Senator Allen?
Please show that passing 2-1. Close the roll. Okay, we'll move to item number 7, teacher residency. Let's hear from the LAO first.
Dan Kaplan, Legislative Analyst's Office. This is a staff recommendation, and it will provide $60 million in one-time funding, Proposition 98 funding, to support a number of grants in 2016-17, 17-18, and 18-19. These grants will support school-based teacher preparation programs in which a mentee is paired with a mentor teacher in a formal residency model. The funding will be used for purposes such as tuition assistance, living stipends, as well as residency program operations. These grants will be $20,000 each, and they'll have a local matching component.
Thank you. Finance?
Good afternoon, Kimberly Leahy with the Department of Finance. This is a new proposal. We are not in a position to support this proposal at this time.
Okay, thank you. Department of Education.
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We would support this proposal. Our staff is especially supportive of teacher residencies because it allows the school district to help prepare teachers who know the schools and the students in that district before they become fully credentialed teachers. And from the teacher's perspective, they're getting a stipend while earning their credential and thereby reducing the financial burden.
Thank you. Questions or comments from colleagues? Members of the public, please come forward.
Estelle Lemieux with the California Teachers Association. You know, we are the protectors of Proposition 98. We support this proposal, but we would not support the use of Prop 98 dollars for the proposal. So it's just not going directly to our students and in the classroom, and we would have serious concerns about it. So,
thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Sarah Lillis with Ed Voice. We're very supportive of the pilot of the teacher residency pilot. I think it's an innovative approach to teacher training, and we look forward to talking more about it.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to address this?
Mr. Chair and members, Erin Evans on behalf of the San Francisco Unified School District, as well as the Small School Districts Association, also in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comments, questions from members. Senator Allen.
I'd just like to point out that this funding actually goes to teachers to help prepare them better in the context of what we know is an enormous problem, and that's that most of our teachers are actually leaving for reasons other than retirement, and most of the ones who are leaving for reasons other than retirement are leaving because they say that they feel really underprepared. And we've found all over the country that there are successful residency models where you pair a highly trained, high level mentor teacher with a young student teacher coming up the ranks, and that pairing and a high quality structured residency program can make a huge difference in preparing a teacher for the rigors of his or her work, and dramatically increases the chances that they're going to actually stay in the job and at the same time succeed and be high performing in the job. This has been shown over and over again all over the place. And in the context of the teacher shortage, I'm a little baffled to hear the opposition, but I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Seeing no other comment, I will ask staff to please read the recommendation and call the roll.
Approve as proposed with implementing trailer bill language to be refined as necessary. Senator Blah?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? No. Senator Allen?
Aye.
Please show this passing 2-1 and close the roll. We now move on to item 8, Special Olympics. We'll ask the LAO to begin the discussion.
Ryan Anderson, Legislative Analyst's Office. This is a staff proposal under which the LCFF apportionment for Los Angeles County Office of Education would be increased by $1 million in one-time Proposition 98 funding for the purpose of allowing them to contract with the Special Olympics Project Unify strategy. Our understanding is that this program promotes inclusion of students with intellectual disabilities in school-wide activities, including, for example, using inclusive athletic programs.
Thank you. Department of Finance?
Molly Quasabarth, Department of Finance. This is a brand-new proposal to us that we haven't seen before, so we're not ready to take a position at this time.
Thank you. And Department of Education?
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We too don't currently have a position on it, though we certainly see that the intent of the program is positive.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee members?
Well, it's new to me too, and I don't know if we're running a foundation or a government, so I'm having difficulty with this one. In
Okay.
spite of how wonderful the organization is that we're talking about.
Any members of the public wish to address the committee on this item? Seeing none, if there are no other comments or questions from committee members, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Approve as proposed with implementing trailer bill language to be refined as necessary. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? No. Senator Allen?
Okay, please show that passing 2-1 and close the roll. Item number 9, Career Technical Education Pathways Program. Start with the LAO.
Natasha Collins with the Legislative Analyst's Office. This item is a request of the governor to provide reimbursement authority of $15.4 million to the CDE from the California Community College Chancellor's Office for the purposes of the CTE Pathways Program. This is a longstanding program that coordinates CTE between community colleges and K-12 entities. There's long been a split of a total of $48 million for the program, around 15 of which goes to the CDE for their programs. Our recommendation on this item, you'll hear more about later when you hear the community college items, and I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Finance?
Amber Alexander with Department of Finance. Just following up on LAO's presentation, this proposal provides the State Department of Education with the reimbursement authority to allow expenditure of the department share of the CTE Pathway Program funds. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. And Department of Education?
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We also support this item.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from committee members? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address the committee on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is to approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Okay, thank you. We move on now to issue number 3, State Operations, items 10 through 16. Issue number 3, State Operations, item 10, Distinguished After-School Health Recognition Program Administration. And we will begin with presentation from the LAO.
Edward Cabral with the Legislative Analyst's Office. This is a change in $59,000 in Nonprofit 98 General Fund. Our understanding, this is just an adjustment to accurately show the actual amount of funding for this program. So it's a technical issue that we recommend approving.
Thank you. Finance?
Yes, we agree with the LAO's summary of the item. It is a technical item. The funding was inadvertently moved from one item to another. This just clarifies that this is funding that we had put language in the budget in 2015 and just putting that in the correct place.
Department of Education?
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We agree it's technical and support the change.
Comments or questions from members? Members of the public wish to address the committee on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Please show this passing 3-0, close the roll, and move to item number 11, State and Federal Accountability System Support. Ask the LAO to present.
This is a May revision proposal that provides $251,000 in non-Prop 98 funding for 3 years, from 16-17, 17-18, and 18-19, to support 2 existing positions for the Department of Education to continue to be involved in the implementation, development, and maintenance of the state and federal accountability systems. We don't have a position on this specific proposal.
Thank you. Finance?
Amber Alexander with the Department of Finance. Following up on LEO's comments, we just want to note that this funding specifically will cover the salary and wages for 2.0 education, research, and evaluation consultants, benefits OE&E and travel for the 2 positions. Given the federal Every Student Succeeds Act's timeline to have an accountability program in place by 17-18, and the fact that the state board has signaled that in addition to their ongoing work on the state accountability system, they're also going to begin work on the new alternate accountability system, we would agree that the department needs some additional workload to accomplish this accountability workload.
Okay, thank you. Department?
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. This was submitted at the department's request, so we appreciate it being included in the governor's May revision, and so we would support the proposal. We think it's important to ensure that we can move forward with the new aligned state and federal accountability system.
Thank you. Questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, members of the public.
Good afternoon, Terry Burns on behalf of the California School Boards Association. Very supportive of this as we move forward with the very complex task of developing an assessment and accountability system. I would take this opportunity to express disappointment the Department of Finance rejected $1.3 million that was also requested for the assessment fellows that go out and do training across the board for schools and how to deal with these assessments that are a part of this system. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none. Any questions or comments from colleagues? Seeing none further, I'll ask staff to please read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is to approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? Aye. Senator Allen?
Please show this passing 3-0 and close the roll. Moving on to item number 12, State Operations Instructional Quality Commission, LAO.
Yes, this is another May revision proposal. It would be $362,000 in one-time non-Prop 98 funding to support the curriculum framework activities of the Instructional Quality Commission. In 16-17, the IQC is working on the development of science and health curriculum frameworks. We have no concerns with this specific proposal.
Thank you. Finance?
Amber Alexander, Department of Finance. We'd just like to add that in addition to the work on the science framework and the health framework that we anticipate these funds being used for, we do include provisional language that allows the department or the Instructional Quality Commission to use the funds for other framework related activities, depending on if their workload timelines shift.
Thank you. Department of Education.
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We certainly appreciate the funding provided for the IQC, but we continue to wish for the permanent funding for the IQC. The work of the IQC, while it typically focuses on one framework and one adoption, during that time, they're also doing the prep work to move forward to the next adoption and then the next framework and the next adoption. Therefore, costs do cross over fiscal years as the timelines overlap. So with one-time funding, we're unable to plan and communicate with LEAs on what frameworks and instructional resources support will be provided to them in various content areas. So we hope there'll be consideration for ongoing funding for the IQC.
Understanding your hope for continuing funding, do you support this as a start?
Yes, we do support having funding going forward. We just hope there's consideration for more.
Thank you. Comments or questions from colleagues? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address the committee on this item? See a couple people moving.
Hi, good afternoon, Chairman and members. Dennis Cuevas Romero here with on behalf of the California Latinas for Reproductive Justice. CLRJ was one of the co-sponsors of Dr. Weber's AB 329 last year that updated the health frameworks, that needs updates for the health frameworks regarding to sexual health education in California. The health frameworks have not been updated in several years, and while we appreciate the one-time funding, in order for the health frameworks to get updated, the department has mentioned that they need about $1.2 million, as the health framework, I believe, is a third in the queue. So there is currently about 10 legislative proposals that have been signed into law that are awaiting the health frameworks, and in order for the health frameworks to be updated, we would like to see the budget proposal increase to address the health frameworks. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Gregory Kramer on behalf of Planned Parenthood Affiliates of California. I'd like to echo a number of the comments that my colleague had just said. We are in full support of updating the health curriculum frameworks along with all the other outdated curriculum frameworks. But since this particular proposal allows for one-time funding. We're hoping that ongoing funding would be something that would be considered in the future. We do support it. However, we would urge that funding would be there in order for health frameworks to be updated because it is later down the queue. So with those, for those reasons, we support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Maya Ingram from the ACLU of California, co-sponsor of AB 329 as well. And while we're appreciative of this funding being appropriated, we encourage ongoing funding so that the health frameworks can be updated. As my colleague noted, many health education laws have been passed since the framework was last updated, and legislators who passed those measures submitted a letter to the governor in support of full funding for this update. So thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further members of the public, any questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and open the roll.
Recommendation is approved as proposed. Senator Blah?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? Senator Allen?
Show that passing 3-0. Close the roll. Moving on to item 13, uniform complaint procedures. Be presented by the LAO.
Ryan Anderson, Legislative Analyst Office. The May revision provides $200,000 in one-time non-Proposition 98 general fund to support the CDE's workload related to the review of appeals from the Uniform Complaint Procedure. The UCP offers an avenue for complaints related to issues like civil rights, physical education, lactation accommodations, foster and homeless youth rights, and courses without educational content. These funds are intended to support UCP activities in the 2016-17 year, and the state auditor is anticipated to release an audit report on the UCP processes in December of this year, which will help inform your future funding decisions.
Thank you. Finance?
Melissa Ng with the Department of Finance. I think the LAO has summarized the proposal very well, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Department of Education.
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We support this proposal. We think this is important for the budget year while we're to ensure that we can address the UCP complaints that might be filed under the new legislation as we're looking towards the longer solution following the state auditor's report.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee members? Seeing none, any members of the public wish to address this item? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and open the roll.
Recommendation is approved as proposed. Senator Blah?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? Senator Allen?
Please show this passing 3-0. Close the roll. Moving on to item 14, Health Framework Expert. We'll ask the LAO to present this item.
Ryan Anderson, Legislative Analyst Office. This is an item related to an item we just heard. The May revision reappropriates $135,000 that was included in the 2015 Budget Act for use for the CDE to contract with a researcher with expertise in the issues of sex trafficking and sexual abuse for purposes of drafting a section that may be included in the health framework by the Instructional Quality Commission.
Thank you. Finance?
Amber Alexander with the Department of Finance. We would again reiterate that this funding was provided in the 2015 Budget Act. Development of the health framework was tentatively scheduled to start in September of 2015. However, that workload has shifted into the budget year, and so we're suggesting that we reappropriate those funds.
Thank you. Department of Education?
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We support this as well to ensure that we have the expertise going into the development, the update of the health frameworks.
Now, it was appropriated last year. Why didn't this begin last year? I think this is for education.
Right. So I think the update on the frameworks was delayed, and Tom Adams is here, and he can answer more specifically about that delay.
Hi, Tom Adams, Department of Education, the Deputy Superintendent of Instruction and Learning Support. We ran into two issues that delayed the health framework delay. One was the complexity of the science framework implementing the new NGSS science standards, as well as complexities in trying to complete the history social science framework with extensive public activity on both. We had to stretch out our timeline on that.
Assuming this is adopted and the budget is provided, when do you anticipate beginning work on this year?
Actually, we had anticipated working on this issue as early as this spring. However, when there was no funding for the Instructional Quality Commission in the January budget, we then had to delay our timeline on the health framework development.
So if this is adopted, when will you begin?
July.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for that. Any members of the public wish to address this item? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is to approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Please show that passing 3-0 and close the roll. Moving on now to item 15, Charter School Facility Grant Program. And for this item, I think we have someone from the Treasurer's Office who's going to be joining us. We'll begin with the presentation by LAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kenneth Capon with the Analyst's Office. The May revision proposes to provide the California School Finance Authority with $132,000 non-Proposition 98 general fund and one position to increase to augment their administrative staff for administering the Charter School Facility Grant Program. This is a program that assists charter schools in low-income areas with lease and rent costs. The augmentation would increase the number of staff assigned to the program from 3 to 4. I think we would note that the administration has indicated that some of these proposals for the authority are based on a staffing analysis the authority recently completed and we've been reviewing. We haven't had a chance to finish reviewing all of that work, but we would note that this particular program with the eligibility was recently expanded, and so there likely is some additional cost pressure in this program.
Thank you. Does Finance have a position on this?
Thomas Todd, Finance. We would concur with everything that Mr. Capon just said, and we would support the governor's May revision.
Thank you. Treasurer's Office, any comments?
We just ask for your support of this proposal to ensure that we can meet our statutory deadlines.
Thank you. Questions or comments from committee members? Any members of the public wish to address the committee on this issue? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is to approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock?
Aye.
Senator Allen?
Please show that passing 3-0 and close the roll. Moving on to item 16, Charter School Facilities Incentive Grants Program. Again, turn to LAO to present the item.
So this item pertains to a federal facility funding program. It serves a very similar purpose as the state program, but it's operated out of federal funds, also administered by the authority. The May revision includes $230,000 in federal funds to provide the School Finance Authority with two positions to support workload increases associated with the program. Similar to the past item, we haven't had a chance to do a complete analysis. We do have a little bit of concern. It appears that the two positions proposed for an augmentation are greater than the need that was identified in the staffing analysis. And if you're interested, we can certainly work with, and we plan to work with staff to dig into that a little bit more.
Thank you. Finance, any comment?
We think that the request here is justified, and so as a result, we recommend supporting the governor's May revision.
Treasurer's Office, would you comment on the 2 versus 1 position issue that the LAO brought up?
Yes. The workload study showed a need for 2.5 positions, and we did a request for 3, anticipating that there would be additional workload growth because we're increasing by about 10% per year. So this would also help us catch up on this particular program with site visits, reconciliation, things that have backlogged. So we really feel there is the workload need for it.
Leo, any further comment?
The staffing analysis broke out the need by program, and for this program, I think the need was an additional 0.8 of a position, and the administration is posing an additional 2 positions funded through federal funds for this program. So I think we have some concerns that while the overall need might be there, it's not clear that this is an appropriate fund source for that.
I'm going to recommend, and I vote on the recommendation here, but I would like the Treasurer's Office and LAO to get together and figure out, there seems to be some discrepancy here. So appreciate that. With that, any members of the public wish to address this item? Seeing none, any questions or comments from committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask staff to read the recommendation and call the roll.
Recommendation is approve as proposed. Senator Block?
Aye.
Senator Morlock? Senator Allen?
Please show that passing 3-0. Thank you, Treasurer's Office. We move now to Commission on Teacher Credentialing. No, not to Commission on Teacher Credentialing. To item 4, trailer bill language, still under, it's issue number 4 under Department of Education. Items 17 to 19. Item 17 deals with Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program. Ask the LEO to present the item.
Ryan Anderson, Legislative Analyst's Office. The May revision includes trailer bill language specifying a new formula for funding to be allocated for the Foster Youth Services Coordinating Program. Under this formula, each county office that serves at least one foster youth would receive a base grant amount of $75,000. The remaining funds would be distributed such that 70% would be distributed based on the count of foster youth served in each county, and the remaining 30% would be distributed based on the number of school districts in each county.
Thank you. Department of Finance, any comments?
Melissa Ng with the Department of Finance. We just want to note that in 2015-16 was the first year of implementation of the Foster Youth Coordinating Program. Since then, we've received feedback from the field that the workload is mainly driven by caseload, so the number of foster youth in a county. So we revised the methodology to focus towards the higher concentrations of foster youth by basing 70% of the allocation on the number of foster youth and 30% on the number of districts in the county.
Thank you. Department of Education.
Deborah Brown with the Department of Education. We would just note that we worked with legislative staff and the Department of Finance to help come up with this.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from committee members? Senator Morlock.
You know, Mr. Chair, the LAO and the Department of Finance mix it up a little bit and give us a change of venue. Could someone switch out with Deborah Brown at least once? I mean, what is the deal?
Well, we're waiting for Mr. Torlakson.
Oh, okay.
Okay, members of the public who wish to comment, please come forward.
Terry Burns, behalf of the California School Boards Association, recognizing the greater focus on foster youth, very important segment. We very much support this.
Thank you. Next speaker.